Ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, we'll see. Sorry, if we're live right now, apologies.
It says waiting for Random Access Study Podcast.
Yeah, hopefully it'll go live right at 3 or 2:30.
2:30 now. There we go.
Specifically from OBS. How's the audio sync? Does it look good?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Voices and everything match up? I apologize. I'm going to do a quick clap test, so see if that lines up, Josh.
Yeah.
Watch for the clap and the...
Got it.
Should do it in just a sec.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
pretty good.
Finally, with the delay, we got the clap test done. So we're back in the saddle again. As you can see, it's been 6 weeks. Something like that. Like it's been a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Six or 7, something like that. It's been,
And a
I've been
quick...
African back.
Yeah, that's a ways. That was only like, what, 15-hour trip to Dubai and then... a few extra hours.
Flight to Dubai, and then a 17-hour layover, and then just a 5-hour flight to Kenya.
So when I was reviewing the audio from the last podcast, sometimes your voice would cut out. So probably within 3-ish inches of your face.
I think I had it far away last time.
Yeah,
so that way when I move when I look over at you or something, I don't get too far away.
Yeah, that looks better. Okay.
All right.
So anyway, Random Access Study, we're back. Excited. I'm Aaron, your host. With me as always, Josh.
Hello.
So if you've been a listener for a while, when we first started, I tried my best to do like a high production value, like audio. If you're one of the OG listeners, you might recognize this little guy that should be playing in your ears right now. It's not playing for us because we don't have our headphones on. But anyway, we've switched to a more conversational style, and reviews and people that I've talked to, they like this conversational style versus what we had been doing in the past with very ABCD notes and things like that. This is much more of an organic conversation that we're having.
Well, I think we took the Bible study a little, I don't want to say too much to heart because it was kind of the original idea, but realizing a conversation is a Bible study too. In other words, we do our Bible studies and then have a conversation on it. It's a lot more informative, a lot easier to put together.
Yes.
And it just kind of flows, I guess.
Well, and this also allows our own, our personal opinions and our viewpoints on what the Scripture says. It allows it to come together in a more organic nature, which is always good because when you're crossing ideas past one another, and you'll notice this when you're discussing like Christian topics, biblical topics, world religion topics, things like that, you'll notice that when you're having a discussion with someone, you don't want to have this preconceived notion that you're going to enter into, like what you're going to say and how you are going to defend whatever it is that you're going to say. You want to be able to open your ears, listen to what the other person is saying, and then formulate what you want to say based on their input. And you'll find that your mind might actually change and you might become more edified or intelligent, or you will be able to influence them in a more godly, biblical nature, if that makes sense. So this, I like this better.
Yep.
And we've talked a lot, and I know for a fact I've grown. I might have, on like 1 or 2 occasions since the many years we've known each other, maybe said something that you were like, Aaron, that's pretty smart, but I know that's rare.
Yes, I'm sure that's happened.
Yeah, self-deprecating humor. It's a wonderful thing. It's also a gift of mine. Anyway, so anytime we open up the Word of God, we're going to start with a prayer, right?
That's the plan.
So I'll put you on the spot here since I've yacked a lot.
Okay, let's pray. Father God, we thank you for all that you do for us, Lord, all that you've given to us. Lord, and just everything you've done, sending your Son, your plan, your gospel, your everything, Lord. We mostly, as we're coming today, Lord, we're thinking of your word. We thank you for how you've revealed yourself to us, Lord, how you've reached out to us and how you've shown us your plan of redemption and glory through your Son, Father. And I pray as we just open your word today, Lord, you open our hearts and our minds. May we learn more about you, Father. May we go closer in our relationship with you. Aaron and I, Lord, those watching the future, listening in the future, however, Father, we pray that this is used to glorify you, Lord, and to go closer in a relationship with you. I pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
And one more quick preface. I'm going to be looking at the stream on the odd occasion to see if there's any interruptions in video. We had a little bit of a video freeze, so this is clearly not for those that are listening in the podcast version.
Yeah, that won't make any sense.
Yeah, but I'll
same thing with the clap testing. We're like, yeah, you clapped. You passed the test, Aaron. You clapped.
Yeah, so in AV, and Billy, if you're watching this, and hopefully you are in the future, I'm going to call you out by name.
Yeah.
He's our AV guy at church. Yeah, you do the clap test to see
what
kind of millisecond delay that you have.
I'm just call out Billy today. You mean the AV guy who was sending messages while I'm teaching our Sunday school class today, mocking me and making a joke at my expense of being a Dolphins fan.
It was sports.
Yeah, that Billy. Yes, I got the message.
Anyway. And then I laughed about it because I didn't realize that it was something that
he didn't realize
was sports related.
Joke.
I thought it was something else that came up in class. It was just really good timing. So turn your Bibles to John chapter 17. Oh, no,
13,
John 13.
13.
Wow. John chapter 13. Apologies.
Maybe Aaron studied the wrong thing.
Yeah, no. It was 13.
It's
anyway.
13.
So you read last. You want to kind of recap it a little bit, like what we're doing here?
Well, I think let's just dive in. Let's try starting off verse by verse.
Okay.
And then just commenting and breaking it down. Because I think the first verse is really going to just open up, set the foundation. And then we can just walk through it and have our conversation, little Bible study together. So I'll read the first verse.
Go.
It was just before the Passover festival. Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end.
So this is in regards to the disciples, the 12.
Yes.
This is before the Feast of Passover. Jesus has this knowledge that his hour was coming, that the sacrifice had to be made.
Let's go to the timing on that.
Yeah,
we did discuss this a little bit beforehand.
We did.
And I think you had almost a revelation or a change of opinion.
No, I did.
On the controversy, not there. So there's a big controversy here, because obviously we're going to be talking about the Last Supper. Was that the Passover meal? Or was that not the Passover meal? And let me just set the stage for that. The Western Church holds traditionally, mostly in the Western tradition, that would be your Catholics, Protestants, hold that it was the Passover meal. And when we do the Lord's Supper, that's why we use unleavened bread. The Eastern tradition, this would be your Orthodox churches, Greek Orthodox, Russian Orthodox, the Coptics and such, who've been around for a while too, okay? They hold that it wasn't the Passover, and that's why they do use leavened bread when they do communion. So it's a pretty big controversy in that.
And it stems from translation differences. You had mentioned that specifically between the King James. Is that?
No. I
thought you had mentioned that.
About,
yeah, we were going kind of all over the place.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember what that was specifically was about.
I think it was.
It'll come back later.
Yeah, it'll come back later. We had a really good discussion pre-show. Of
Yes.
course, we always do that, and then we stumble here.
Uh-huh.
Well, at least I do.
So when you woke up this morning, what was your opinion after all your study?
So after all my study, I went through a couple different commentators. I almost always will pull up Chuck Missler because, the late Chuck Missler
Chuck was a good Bible teacher.
Just amazing, right? And he firmly believed that this was, he had taught that it was like right before in the John 13 account that I was
right before what?
Right before the Passover feast. Like this wasn't technically it.
Okay.
And so, obviously my viewpoint was, Chuck's generally right.
Especially looking at the wording in John 13.
Yeah.
Like you got the NASB, right?
Yeah, I have the NASB.
What's it say there?
In verse 1 it says, "Now before the feast of the Passover."
Right.
All right. Now that's just simply saying that Jesus himself knew before the feast of Passover that his time was coming because he's the Passover lamb.
Right.
Right? So you have that situation going on, but then you go into verse 2.
Oh, we'll get to verse 2. We'll get to verse 2.
Then. And that's where my mind kind of changed.
Okay, so maybe
in pre-conversation.
Well, let's do that. I mean, I think we've gotten verse 1 out of what we're gonna get out of it.
Well, I do.
Why don't we go verse 2? That's a good introduction.
Let's go forward, but I do actually want to cover a little bit more on the love of Jesus specifically for his disciples. But going in, what changed my mind is after reading Luke 22, which is what you had me pull up. Mm-hmm. Luke is very obviously stating that this was the Passover feast.
Right.
Now, when you read verse 1 of chapter 13, now before the feast of Passover, And then you go into verse 2, it says, during the supper, there are two different times.
And mine says evening meal, if that helps you out.
Yeah.
It doesn't complete your thought a little better. Yeah.
Yeah, my viewpoint changed. It's two very specific different times. Jesus had foreknowledge of what he had to do.
Right.
And he knew it prior to the Feast of Passover and that it was coming close.
And
then during the supper, these things then happened.
Right.
And when you read Luke 22, it kind of puts that into great relief. Like you can tell that that's what's being said.
You have Luke 22 pulled up?
I do, actually.
Yeah, just go ahead, yeah. 'Cause I think this kind of shuts the door on it.
Yeah, so now the Luke 22, verse 1, now the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is called the Passover, was approaching. And it goes on and talks about the chief priest, Judas Iscariot. Talks about him consented to seek a good opportunity to betray Jesus. You go into verse 14.
I think it's 14, yeah.
Yeah. The Lord's Supper. When the hour had come, he reclined at the table and the apostles with him, and he said, I have earnestly desired to eat this, what? Passover.
Right.
With you before I suffer. So this wouldn't have happened prior to.
Mm-hmm.
You can get, you and I, we talked about the timing. Like we as Americans and a lot of the world recognizes the start of the day at the minute past 11:59 p.m.
Yeah, because I asked you, is this the day that Jesus dies or the day before Jesus dies? And in our Western mindset, we would say it was the night before.
Before, yep.
But to a Hebrew, this is the beginning of the day that he's going to die.
Right.
This is how the day that Jesus dies begins.
And this falls on the 15th of Nisan. Is that correct?
Yes.
So this is the 15th of Nisan.
No, 14th.
It is
14th.
14th?
Yes, because the lambs are slaughtered on the 14th.
Okay.
And
well, the 14th would have been before sunset, though.
No.
After sunset, it would have turned into the 15th.
No.
Am I wrong?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, no, at sunset. No, this is after sunset on what would be the 14th.
Okay.
So this is the very beginning of the 14th.
Okay.
He will die on the 14th of Nisan. The 14th of Nisan is when the lambs are killed.
That's my misunderstanding.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
all right, that makes sense.
And now, there is room for the Eastern. I mean, listen, there's a huge chunk of Christianity that disagree here. I mean, this is a big argument. And of course, we come from the Western route and we have our things of why. But I think we were talking about, too, the author's purposes. John is giving you an eyewitness account of how that Jesus is the Messiah so that you will believe.
That's how he starts it, and that's how he ends it.
And he's recalling his personal eyewitness testimony. So he's kind of setting up the Last Supper. Like, look, before the feast of Passover happens, Jesus loves his disciples. It's a setup to verse 2. Like 1 and 2, like you said, one's a setup to what's going to happen in verse 2. Luke is taking an account that he's getting eyewitnesses. He's trying to give you an accurate history, more so than anything else. Yeah. And that's why he sets it that way. Now, too, I think it's the Midrash gives us that because so many lambs had to be slaughtered. Because remember, this is one of the 3 feasts that God has all Hebrew men come to Jerusalem for, which I think is awesome. If you think about it, there's 3 feasts that all men have to come to. One is Yom Kippur. The first one of the year is Yom Kippur, because the Jewish New Year, which is coming up, I think, next week. And
it's all men have to.
All men who are able,
if they can,
if they're able to come, then they're obligated to come. And
so they're not sinning by not coming. It's
right.
If you're capable of.
If you're capable of coming. And if you look up 3, well, Yom Kippur, which in the Jewish calendar is the first one. We just had the Jewish New Year this last week, which we were supposed to get raptured by that guy in
we're still here.
South Africa. But here's the thing.
We either got it wrong.
I never put a date. It never works out right. Yes. Because I always say, if you're right, no one cares because we're with Jesus. And if you're wrong, which you're probably going to be, because I'm still going with the Jesus part of no man knows the hour. So,
I've had a lot of eschatological conversations, like end of the universe conversations this past week.
I'll give you that. God did use that in that sense. Okay, but so we're right at the Jewish New Year right now. Okay. Yom Kippur is coming up. That's the first feast everyone has to come to. And here's the beauty of it. He wants all, in general, listen, if Hebrew men are coming, they bring their families too. So he's bringing the people together. Here's this sacrifice of atonement, the Day of Atonement. These sacrifice, one lives, one dies. One's a sin offering, one takes the sin away from the people. It's a dual picture of Jesus' death and resurrection, a picture of Jesus making atonement for them, of what's going to happen when Messiah comes. Then the second one's Passover, this one here.
Right.
And it's a picture. It's when Jesus does die and make atonement for them. You know what was the and you have Passover. There's a whole picture there too. But in history, Jesus does die and make that atonement, that picture of Yom Kippur, the picture of Passover. It all comes together on this one. But the third one, which was the most well-attended, I didn't know this one. I would have thought the other way, because look at the calendar.
You would think it would be the Passover.
I'm thinking Passover's the big one. That's like Christmas, Yom Kippur, that's like your Easter. These are your two big holidays. But the third one, the one that was most well-attended because of the time of year it comes in after the first harvest there, is Pentecost, or the Festival Weeks. And that's the one that's most well attended. And that's the day that God begins the church. So what he does is, okay, I'm going to require you to see this beautiful picture of the gospel laid out. But the most well attended one, that's where I'm going to start the church.
That's
and then
the one
all
where
of you believers are going to go
stuff.
back all across the world and take the gospel back. It's just beautiful how all the way back in Exodus, God was planting this.
Yeah, it's planting an incredible seed at that point in time. Because you got to think millions of people were in attendance at that point in time.
Right.
Yeah, tons of men, at least. Most of them would have had a wife, at least 1 to 2 kids.
I think in AD 70, it was like 2 million attended or whatever. And this is what, while Jerusalem was under siege, the Romans let them in. They let millions more in because you're going to run out of food faster.
That plus you think about the commerce and the taxes. It's even better.
Well, no, they weren't going for commerce. In AD 70, there was full out. In AD 70, at the time of Passover, the Romans had Jerusalem under siege.
Well, I knew that. I thought you said AD 7 for some reason.
No, 70, like, AD 70.
All right.
No, but even at that point, they let in a couple more million people, and they still went. The city's under. Well, we have to go. But.
So the next time you say, "I stubbed my toe, I can't go to church," I'm guilty of it too.
Yeah. So since you have all these people here, the Midrash tells us that the practice then was you could have the Passover meal from sundown on the 14th. Till sundown on the start of the 14th,
prior to.
all the way to the sundown ending the 15th. So there was a 2-day period because they have to sacrifice all these lambs. And it's just, there's only so much space and there's only so much. So the practice at this time was the Passover meal would happen anywhere from right here is the earliest it could be all the way up to. And what happens on the 14th, this is the day they slaughter the lambs. So get your lamb slaughtered, take it home. So I don't know if the temple's open after dark then, or But so the idea is this could be a Passover meal. Right. This was a time that it was practiced at this time, according to Jewish writings written in the 2nd and 3rd century. So we're a little away from but in AD 70, a lot of stuff was destroyed with these records. So it is possible this can be the Passover meal. And it definitely, looking at Luke, in the Synoptic Gospels, it seems very probable that it was.
Yeah, it does. Especially with like the newer translations and things like that. I believe that there was something about the translation of the King James Version that made it seem as if it was before. That was part of our conversation prior. I will eventually remember it, but in my translation, it says it adds a word, and that's because the translation that I have is the NASB. You're reading from the ESV.
No, NIV.
NIV.
Yeah.
And both of these copies have the Dead Sea Scrolls to fall back on.
Yeah.
And whether or not you believe in the Book of Enoch and all these other things, whatever, it's still like a Rosetta Stone for Greek and Hebrew writing. So it just really helped us out a lot. So this is more accurate, I find.
Oh, no, we haven't got to the part. No, I remember the King James part. We're going to come up to it.
Oh, we are going to?
Yeah. No, it had to do with when Jesus got up. See, now I remember.
Yeah, okay, all right, cool.
See, there's a problem. You have to do some prep ahead of time so you know where conversations are going to go. Or
like a heads up, we're going to touch
but
this.
Sometimes it gets a little, behind the scenes here, you forget exactly what it was you were talking about. But you knew it was important, but we hadn't got here yet. That's why.
Yeah, because before we even do this, we break bread together with our families. Yep. So there's a house full of kids running around. He and I are talking. Our wives are talking. I do want to touch on, because I think we've hit that pretty well.
Yeah, verse 1. Yeah, now that we're 20 minutes in, can we get to verse 2?
Well, okay, so just imagine.
Oh, no, you're about the love of God. Yeah, the love of Christ for his disciples. Yeah.
Jesus knows what's going to happen. He knows that he has to sacrifice his life, right? That's why he prays in Gethsemane. Immediately after this, he's praying, "Let this cup pass from me." And there's a little bit of stuff that we can touch on that based on the setter, but we're going to kind of dip our toe in that just a little bit. But here I want to point out that he says he would depart. He knew that his hour had come, that he would depart out of this world to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world. He loved them to the end. Yeah. He's facing death, and
Yes.
he's sitting there
He's going to die
lounging.
today. In his mind, he's dying today.
He's sitting there lounging
Yeah.
with these men that he loves,
Uh-huh.
and like if it were me, I would be shaking. I'd be trembling. My
Like he doesn't
fight or flight response would be active. Like
right. He doesn't. He knows. The next time he sleeps, closes his eyes to sleep, quotation marks there, is when he dies.
yeah,
You know, that's it. He's well, it's tomorrow. Nope. To him, there's no. None of the disciples are going to sleep. You know, you see that in the Garden of Gethsemane when they shouldn't have been. But this is Jesus has realized the day has come. That the sun sets. Today is the day.
this is it. It's not going to
This
be
is
another
why
year.
I came,
Yeah,
and I'm with the ones I love most, and he knows what's going to happen. Yeah.
and he's sitting there having a Passover feast with them, not only to be in compliance with.
Well, you want to go ahead and read verse 2?
Yeah. During supper, the devil, having already put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, the son of Simon, to betray him. I feel like we can keep rolling.
We got evening meal was in progress. That was a regular thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like this was happening at that point. They were eating, they were drinking.
And I think like the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Iscariot, to betray Jesus. It's kind of this picture that the devil was using people, setting up. He's trying to bring Jesus down. And okay, now it's Judas's turn. Let's.
Well, and what's interesting too, like you have a bunch of Jews in Jerusalem at this point. You have the leadership, the Jewish leadership, which does not want to get rid of Jesus at this point right now. They want to get rid of Jesus during a non-holiday time. They want him dead, but they don't want to be doing this right now.
No, they want to wait till the Passover is over. Because
and-
the population of Jerusalem will support them getting rid of Jesus. The ones coming from further away, probably not so much.
Yeah.
You know, that's going to be where Jesus' followers are coming from.
And this again, what I just got through saying, if you continue reading well beyond what our lesson's going to be today,
because we're stopping
the
at verse
talk,
17.
you're talking about the betrayal of Judas. Jesus is in complete control. He's got the narrative down pat, and he literally says to Judas, "Get up, go do what you're about to do. Do it quickly. Let's go." Like
He
he's
sets the
forcing
timing.
the hand.
Right, he sets the timing. Yes.
Yeah, and
like Jesus knows he's going to die today. Nobody else knows it yet.
right, and
because
by
Jesus is going
sending
to put it
Judas
in
to do
motion.
that, it's time. Like it has to happen at this point. But anyway,
right.
that's what he knows. That's what he feels. That's what he sees. But he's still sitting there with the people that he loves, and then he does what he's about to do right now.
He's going to do it to Judas too. But anyway,
Yeah.
Jesus knew. I'll go with verse 3. Jesus knew that the Father put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. What I love about this verse is more than the synoptic gospels, John is getting in and telling us what Jesus was thinking, what motivated him, and was this because John was more perceptive, or more likely John being the disciple that Jesus loved?
Yeah.
John is probably recalling private conversations he had with Jesus over these things. So John is confident that Jesus knew that he was from the Father, that Father put all things under his power, and he come from God, and he was returning back to God.
Yeah.
It basically gives us an insight to Jesus' thinking, where we don't always get an insight to what Jesus is thinking. We see what he does, we see what he says, but there's not a lot of that narrative, first-person narrative with Jesus, or there is none really, of what he was thinking at the time.
Well, and this is the interesting thing. The way that the disciples were laid out, Judas was immediately to his left. John was on his right. Simon Peter was directly to his right. That's the layout of the disciples as we know it, as of right now. Those are the real ones that matter. And, John was close.
Yeah.
Never really said how close he was. It was more the disciple who Jesus loved. Sometimes the faster disciple.
Yeah.
But anyway.
That's a couple more chapters.
Yeah. So you stopped at 3 or 4? You stopped at
3.
You stopped
I'm
before
doing
4.
the odds. Yeah, you got the evens.
All right.
This is where the King James we were talking about.
Yeah, 4, he says, got up from supper and laid aside his garments, and taking a towel, he girded himself. Now, this is a short little verse, but what is happening here is incredible, because Jesus is taking off these nicer garments, and he's going down into essentially what would be considered a towel, a slave garment. And he's getting ready to do the most amazing thing, but he's doing it as a lowly servant. He's taking on the visible form of a lowly servant.
So let's talk about that King James thing before people wonder, because it's not that important. But King James says after supper was over, after the meal. This is clearly in the middle of the meal.
Yeah.
And in the Greek allows for it to be either way, but putting into this is clearly looking on what happens later. It's in the middle of supper.
Yeah. Clearly, they step back into it afterwards. You had some really good insight on that.
Let's do that with verse 5.
You want to do
that?
that?
Let's do verse 5. Yeah.
Okay.
So we got this. Well, no. How about this though? Let's go with the picture. Did you got the picture? You were pulling this with Philippians chapter 2.
The fact that he dressed himself down into servant's garb, essentially, just a towel, set aside his
So let me get this
master
right.
garments.
He gets up.
Yes.
So it's like getting up from the throne in heaven. He takes off his garments, his outer garments.
Outer garments. Yeah.
So he's taking off his glory.
He takes on
servant's garb, to be a servant or slave, depending how polite we want to be, and then he's going to be obedient. So yeah, it's like you said, this is a beautiful picture of the kenosis right here.
Yes,
this is Jesus acting it out. And if you go back to Luke, is it 22 we were reading from?
Yeah, it was 22.
It kind of tells us later. I think in verse 40, it's later. It talks about they were kind of the disciples were having an argument that day about who was the greatest.
Yeah, 24. Who is the greatest?
Okay, 24, not 44. Yeah. So they're discussing who was the greatest. Now, I don't think this was happening at the table, especially if this is the Passover meal.
Yeah.
Because they were somber I think this is probably when they were coming into the room. Reading some scholars when they think either on the way there. If you ever walk with a group of guys, you get these discussions. They have this, or is it walking kind of walking the door? It stops, and so it's almost like Jesus is like, "I want to teach these guys a lesson."
No, I'll do what you do with me. I'll push back a little bit on that because if you read 22:14, when the hour had come, he reclined at the table and the apostles with him. So they were already sitting at the table. And then they had that argument.
Right? No. I think it's referring back to an earlier argument though.
And they began, hold on, for indeed the Son of Man is a man whom he has betrayed. Well, no, verse 20, and in the same way he took the cup after they had eaten, saying, this cup which is poured out for you is the new covenant in my blood. But behold, the hand of the one betraying me is with mine on the table. For indeed the Son of Man is going as it has been determined, but woe to that man by whom he is betrayed. 23, he says, and they began to discuss among themselves which one of them it might be who was going to do this thing. So my thought is, Jesus says, one of you is going to betray me, and they're doing this at that 12-inch high table, lounging around with one another. I feel like...
No, but read verse 24 next. A dispute also arose among them as to which of them was considered to be greatest. The way this is done is they were having the argument about who is going to betray Jesus. That's the discussion they're having in the moment. Luke is also describing there was a discussion among them who would be there. And this, if we go back to all the way back to when James and John's mother comes up to Jesus and asks, "Can they sit on your right and left?" This was a common theme amongst them. So at
least two of them.
Yeah, and so Jesus, and I think Luke puts it there to describe why Jesus says what he says in 25. The King of the Gentiles lorded over them; those who exercise authority. In other words, he's rebuking them from an earlier conversation.
Well, I think
it clearly lays open it could be that.
It's possible. Your NIV version uses the word "and there also," right?
A dispute also arose among them, but also doesn't mean congruent in time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because mine simply says, "and there arose also a dispute among them," as to which
also arose.
But it seems like it's happening in linear time.
But it could be something that happened earlier, and it's introducing why Jesus says what he says in verse 25.
Right. Okay, that's fair.
Well, let's go to verse 5 here. After that, so after he changes his clothes, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel he had wrapped around him. And this was I don't know, this might be well written about. I didn't see this, but this occurred to me as I was thinking about this is, well, we know the tradition, okay? We were always told, and I did look a little at this is what led to that.
Yeah.
It's the form of the lowest slave job to do.
Excuse me.
This is not, and this is why Peter is where he has a response that he has. It was the duty of the host to make sure your feet got washed. But often in culture, they might not have a slave to do that. This is a very busy time of the year. This is one of those feasts. Everyone's coming. Everybody has guests in town. Guest houses are full. If the person who owned this house had a slave, that slave might be busy doing something else or not available. Or oftentimes there wasn't a slave to do it. So what the host would do was they would provide the basin and the water, and you'd wash your own feet. Now, at this time, a rabbi could not ask his disciples to wash his feet. It would not be culturally proper for Jesus to ask us as a rabbi, as their Lord. As their creator, he can always command them to do it. But as a rabbi, doesn't have culturally, a rabbi did not have the right to ask his disciple to make his disciples wash his feet. So this is something that's obviously we get that, but often you wash your own feet coming in. So my question always was, why weren't their feet washed? Why didn't the host provide? Because we know at one time when Jesus gets his feet washed with the perfume and all that, he rebukes the host, saying, "You should have washed my feet, and you didn't. Look what she's doing."
That's really good evidence of that thought
So
process.
it's kind of like, why wasn't there someone to wash their feet this time? And what I think, this is my speculation that I got out of it, is the host provided the water. There's a watering basin and towel there. Everything to wash your feet is there, except for the slave to do it. So I think the idea was they were supposed to wash their feet as they came in, but Jesus hears them bickering, and this backs up why I think that.
Sure.
Okay. But again, this was an ongoing conversation. So if it does develop later and they didn't do it on the way in, he's heard it in the last week.
It doesn't negate the thought process.
No, but he's
Jesus
heard
was
it
probably having.
Right. He's heard it in the last week.
Yeah.
You know, so Jesus doesn't wash his feet. This is my I'm speculating. Okay, this is but I'm thinking this is how this sets up. Jesus walks in, he doesn't wash his feet, and the disciples are like, well, if Jesus didn't wash his feet, I'm not going to wash my feet either. So this could have been like an awkward moment. Like Jesus he's making, if this is true. Okay, again, this is my speculation. That maybe it's a little bit awkward because the feet are smelly and dirty, and no one washed them. Like you ever sat down and you didn't wash your hands, and you're like, I want to wash my hands, but it'd be rude now, you know?
Especially if you go to an Ethiopian restaurant, you sit down and then you're like, oh, there's the sink over there in the hallway outside of the bathroom. Oh,
okay,
man,
if you ever go to an Ethiopian restaurant, and it's never awkward, go wash your hands.
Yes, always wash your hands.
Always wash your hands.
You're going to eat with your
You're going to wash your hands afterwards, too. But yes, if you don't know, you eat Ethiopian food with your hands.
And it's
now,
delicious.
You do have like that little bread to pick up things with. So it's not just quite like a 2-year-old.
But it gets everywhere. It's like a it's like a soggy napkin.
Yeah, yes.
It's edible. But anyway, sorry. Derailed. My bad.
Yes, totally derailed with your favorite cuisine. But anyway, so this is my speculation. I just want to put this is what came to me as a thought that makes sense. Let's put it that way. Jesus, I want to teach them a lesson. Because the foot washing happens in the middle of dinner. It never happens. It always happens before. This is the wrong time. But I think he kind of left it awkward. He doesn't wash his feet, so no one else does. And now in the middle of dinner, he gets up, and he's got everyone's attention. He gets up, takes the water and starts washing their feet, which is, they can't be made to wash his feet.
Mind-blowing.
Now he's washing their feet. This is just, this is shaking the world. And I think it's Jesus wants to make a point.
Yeah.
He's tired of this discussion. Who's the greatest? Well, let me show you.
The least is the greatest.
Who's the greatest in the room?
Jesus.
Hands down, Jesus.
Absolutely.
So Jesus says, let me show you what greatness in my kingdom means.
Right.
I think that's now again, there might be people who've written books on this. I don't know.
Oh, there are.
There are. I mean, about Jesus skipping the foot washing, and I just didn't see it anywhere. And I'm reading it. And I'm like,
yeah.
I'm like, because I'm always like, why were their feet dirty? Why wasn't there slave? Then I'm like, wait a minute. If Jesus wanted to make a point, which is what he obviously wanted to do, and I read the thing with culturally, often it was you wash your own feet. In other words, it was because we always make it was a slave to do it. No, it was your responsibility to wash your feet. That's always been a thing, and I think that fits with the point Jesus is going to make. You're supposed to wash your feet too. Yeah. But if Jesus didn't do it, everyone else would follow suit. If Jesus didn't wash his feet, no one else is washing their feet. So
yeah, it's a good visual lesson,
and that's why the stuff to wash feet is there, but no feet were washed yet.
So who do you think whose feet got washed first? Who do you think?
Honestly, I'm going to say Jesus probably started at one end and worked his way around.
See, I think it was Judas.
You do?
I do, because Judas was immediately to his left. He was the guest of honor.
Culturally, that might make sense, yeah.
Yeah, I think he washed Judas's feet first.
Possible.
Yeah. It definitely wasn't Simon Peter.
No, because, well, you get into that one. That's your verse now.
Yeah, looking at verse 6. So he came to Simon Peter. He said to him, Lord, do you wash my feet? To further back my thought process of this, of Judas being the first disciple whose feet he washed, it was the most incredible display of love and affection and servitude, even with the knowledge that Judas was going to be the one that was going to betray him. He still went to him first. Even if you didn't know that the left side was the seat of honor at the table, even if you didn't know that, it's in Jesus's character to be that way.
Yeah.
And so like that, that's why
Very
I think
possible, yeah.
And it to me, it means a lot because...
I'll grant you this. That's more possible than my theory that Jesus didn't wash his own feet coming in on purpose.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'll give yours more credence. I still believe mine to be true.
I don't disagree.
Yours holds better weight.
Yeah. But I think that's a beautiful thing, and it's something we kind of got into that a little bit, almost like the outskirts of that type of discussion this morning, is if you have a servant's heart, you have Jesus's heart.
Yeah.
And what does that mean to you? How do you treat other people? How do you approach other people? How do you communicate with other people? What if they're condemning you or doing bad things to you? How are you supposed to return that to them? You're supposed to defend your faith. You're supposed to defend your belief in Jesus and your servitude of Jesus. Jesus doesn't need defending, right. But you are allowed to defend who you are in Jesus. Yeah. But you're supposed to do it with a servant's heart of love, because your goal is to bring those people that are treating you terribly to a loving communion with Jesus. Right. And you can't do that if you're acting foolish around them or condemning them or treating them poorly. So anyway, I just thought that was really beautiful. It spoke to me as that's not something that I struggle with or haven't been put into the position to struggle with yet in a way that would cause me to struggle, if that makes sense. So anyway, came to Simon Peter. He said to him, "Lord, do you wash my feet?" You should probably continue on.
Well, I just want to put this. He gets to Peter, and Peter's like, okay, something's not right here.
Yeah, not me.
Well, no, he's thinking somebody should say something, and nobody has yet. You all just let Jesus wash your feet, and he was probably like, "No, stop! I'm going to wash your feet." He wants us to say something, you know. So I think that's Peter. Peter's,
yeah, you're right.
Peter's not going to just sit back. Okay, y'all are quiet. Now he's getting to me. No, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. So, Lord, you're going to wash my feet. It's Peter, and I think Jesus replied, "You do not realize now what I'm doing, but later you will understand." That's pretty much it. It's like, yep, you don't understand why, but it's going to make sense later.
That's so funny to say, and I'm glad you dug into that, because Peter was kind of a hothead just in general. I would imagine, putting myself in Peter's shoes right now, watching Jesus wash the disciples' feet.
Yeah,
his heart was racing. He's
waiting for someone else to say something.
Yeah, he was getting hot. He was like,
"Why are you guys just sitting here letting it happen?
Yeah,
this isn't right. Jesus should not be washing our feet. Why are you just sitting there back and letting it happen? And why aren't you saying something? Speak up.
And it's
when you know
so
something's wrong, speak up.
Too. It's so opposite of Peter just to hold his tongue too. Yeah. So this is really interesting.
No, he held his tongue until it came to him.
But what
now
I'm
going
saying
to speak up.
Generally, though, and this is why it was so startling for the disciples, for Jesus to strip down into that servant's garb and then start washing feet. They were dumbfounded, even to the point where Peter had no words until Jesus was like right in front of him.
Yeah, and he's going to wash his feet. And, Lord, you're going to wash my feet?
Yeah.
You'll understand it later. I don't want to get it later because that's your next verse.
and again, and this is incredible. Uh-huh. Verse 8, Peter said to him, "Never shall you wash my feet." Jesus answered him, "If I do not wash you, you have no part with me." If you're talking about the picture, like you had mentioned, we had talked pre-show of Jesus getting up from communion, glory essentially, stepping down, stripping himself, the kenosis, and then taking on servant's garb, and then doing something that is lower than what a servant was required to do. And if I do not wash you, you have no part with me. What was it?
What do you
Pastor
think
Russell? Pastor Russell said today. He mentioned narrow is the way.
Narrow's the gate. Yeah.
Yeah. Narrow is the gate.
That, yeah.
Right. And I immediately began thinking of that. If Jesus isn't acting on our behalf to clean us, then, and we're not accepting of it, then we don't have a part in the kingdom.
See, I don't think that's the one he's making yet.
That's
but when
fine.
you get the first 10 to why, it has to. I think this is referring to like 1 John 1:9.
That's fine. I'll pull that up. I'll pull that up when you go.
Yeah. In other words, if we confess our sins, He is faithful and just.
Oh, the Christians bar soap.
1 John 1:9.
1 John 1:9. Okay.
I think this part, and I'll explain why, because I don't think Peter gets it yet either. I don't think this is talking about a salvific sense yet, because I think in verse 10 it'll all make sense.
Well, I don't think Peter gets it at all, because
right.
He's an all or nothing kind of guy.
Yeah. No, it's 1 John 1:9.
No, I was looking at John 1:9 because there was something else.
In other words, this I think is talking about the daily walking, daily sins we pick up. We need to confess them and be cleansed of all unrighteousness. And if we don't do that, we don't have a relationship with Jesus. In other words, we can't be walking in sin, not dealing with it, and then, oh yeah, my relationship with Jesus is good. He's like, you have no part with me. You don't have a part with me if you're just living in sin. And I'm here to clean it up for you. And if you don't want to deal with it, I don't think it's a salvific sense. Because then we get to the whole Judas thing.
Oh, it's a continual washing.
Yes, and the reason why I think Jesus is going to unpack this to Peter's next statement, you're going to answer it in verse 10, and I think that's where it comes together.
Oh, okay.
If it stopped here, I'd agree it's salvific, but he makes another point. So then Peter says, "Then Lord," Simon Peter replied, "not just my feet, but my hands and my head as well." So Peter's like, "Look, God, just don't stop at my feet. My hands need to be washed. My head, I've been sweating."
Yeah.
And in other words, he doesn't say whole body, because I was like, "Give me a whole bath." He doesn't say that. He says my hands and my head, which when you're doing a bucket bath or whatever, if you're just cleaning up real quick, hands, feet, head, that's your, So he's like, "Lord, clean all of me. If I have to be cleaned by you to have a part with you, then clean everything." And this is where I think the point gets made in verse 10.
Yeah,
unless you want to go with Peter saying wash everything.
If a little is great, then a lot is better.
Yeah, of course.
That type of situation.
Yeah. He's like, wait. Now Peter's like, now I'm really the smart one. I spoke up, and they just got their feet washed. I'm going to get everything washed, and I'm going to look super smart. And Jesus has a reply.
I'm not in Peter's head. I can see that.
Yes.
Yeah, honestly.
Okay, I'm sorry. If I was in Peter's shoes, this is what I would be thinking.
Yeah,
let's qualify that. Okay, instead of picking on Peter, I'm picking on myself there.
Well, especially when you're in the presence of Jesus. And
I never got to be in the presence of Jesus too.
Well, but what I'm saying is they never actually called him Jesus. They always called him Lord. When they were in the presence of Lord, their Lord, their Rabbi, but they never called him anything other than Lord.
Well, that's what's recorded. I don't know.
They do call him Jesus, obviously, in the Gospels and in these writings. But anytime that they addressed him, they always called him Lord.
Right.
And so they're in the presence of their Lord, and he's sitting there doing something incredible to him. Anyway, verse 10, Jesus said to him...
Jesus' reply to this?
Jesus said to him, "He who has bathed needs only to wash his feet, but is completely clean. And you are clean, but not all of you." He's not talking about the whole body. Right. He's talking about one person in general.
Right. No. But when he says, "Those who've had a bath need only wash their feet,"
right,
their whole body is clean, and you are clean, though not. So I think the salvation is the bath. Okay, if you want, in other words, the salvific work of Jesus on the cross is about to happen. Is the bath? That's when we're saved. And Jesus, I don't think the foot washing is a picture of us being saved. It's every day, because you wash your feet at dinner today. Well, tomorrow at dinner you need feet washed again.
Dirty again, yeah.
And again, okay. Now listen, we bathe every day in the U.S. That's pretty much we take showers every day.
Yeah.
Other cultures, even today, they don't bathe every day, and here they don't bathe every day. And Jesus is like, look, every day you need to get your feet washed. You don't need a bath every day. So culturally, we have a hard time applying this in a 21st century modern American setting. But what he's saying is, look, you've had your bath. But every day you got to clean your feet up, and that's why I think this is talking about daily sin, and I think we'll see as he gets to the rest of it.
I think you're right, especially when you're making your point. And this, to me, almost whispers of when Jesus was talking to Nicodemus. That was talking about salvation.
In John chapter 3.
Who must be born of water.
Yeah.
You're
born
talking
of water,
about
born
actually born of water. You're born. Your water breaks and your birth, right, or the mother's water breaks and then your birth.
Right. Unless
you're in the world and then you believe in Jesus and become washed in him.
Right.
Then, that's the salvific conversation.
Yeah. And when he says, "And you are clean, though not every one of you."
Yeah.
Look, you guys are saved. You put your faith in me, except for one of you.
Yes.
And the part where we end after 18, that's where he gets into predicting and telling him to go and do his thing and such.
Yeah.
So that's why I said, is it kind of, I don't think that when he says you have no part of me, I don't think what he's saying is that's the salvation part. It's okay. Look, you're clean. You've had a bath, but look, if you keep your feet dirty and you don't let me cleanse your feet, if you don't come to me, as I said, 1 John 1:9, ironically same. I know there's nothing ironic with God. I got that, guys. Okay, I'm not giving out my email address like the pastor did today, but the same author I think gives us that picture in 1 John 1:9. I'm almost thinking that when John writes 1 John 1:9, he's thinking of this moment in his head because he witnessed it. We've got to deal with the sin in our life. And I think that's the picture of what, unless I wash you, you have no part with me, is you can't say we have a relationship and you ignore the sin in your life when I'm here to cleanse you of all unrighteousness. Again, that cleansing word in 1 John 1:9, I think just harkens back to this. Oh, I guess I'm the next one to read. Are we going to go to verse 11?
Yep.
Okay.
So.
For he knew who was going to betray him, and that's why he said not everyone was clean. I kind of gave commentary on that last one. You want to add to that? Or you want to go to the next verse?
No, there's really nothing to unpack there.
It's Judas. We already knew that in verse 2, but
spoiler. So when he had washed their feet and taken his garments and reclined at the table again, he said to them, "Do you know what I have done to you?"
Okay, do you ever hate it? I do this a lot, so maybe people do hate it. The teacher asks you a question that's like, all right, there's an obvious answer here, but I don't want to say anything because I might be wrong. you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, yeah, you washed your feet. Do you understand what I did? Yeah, they were dirty. I mean, or you know what I'm saying? But I got to think the way Jesus, because Jesus knows these guys really well, and they were arguing that day, whether just momentarily or hours before, about who the greatest is, and who the one who's clearly the greatest just washed their feet. And that's got to blow their mind.
Well, and there's no evidence, there's no writing in here that says that Jesus washed his feet or they washed his feet. So when Jesus sits back down at that table, his feet are still dirty. So again, hearkening back to Jesus when he died, that's how the sin was removed.
I would just have to say we don't know if his feet are dirty or not.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't say specifically.
I don't know. Culturally, it might have been wash your feet before you wash someone else's feet. In other words, the slave might have had to wash their feet before they washed somebody else's feet. I don't really know.
That's worth to look.
Yeah,
that's
it would
worth
be.
it to look at. But if you just
I wish
read
you'd
it,
known you say that. Yeah, I would have looked it up deeper.
If you read it just directly,
it doesn't say either way.
No,
it never says his feet were cleaned.
So when he had washed their feet and taken his garments and reclined at the table again, it does not say when he had washed their feet and cleaned his and taken his garments and reclined at the table. Now I'm going to dance around this a little bit because you say it much better. We're not going to get into penal substitutionary atonement. We're not going to get into that. But the whole point here in my mind is if Jesus did not wash his feet, then he is literally the only person sitting at that table that has not been washed at that point in time.
But he's had a bath.
Right.
Yeah, but everyone was clean except for one.
Yeah, but his feet are still dirty.
Yeah.
And he's going to enter Gethsemane with his feet dirty. Now, unpack out of that whatever you want to unpack out of that.
They're going to be dirty because he walked on the road to Gethsemane.
But they were also dirty before he walked out of the house.
We don't know that.
Probably.
Yes. I would think this would be one understanding of the culture in the first century as this was written. They would have known one way or the other.
I'm just stating it as like a provocative thought. It's something that like you can't build a doctrine off of it.
No,
but
I would say
it's a provocative thought.
If it was important, I think it would have been mentioned.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
but it's the beauty of how these are written.
Well, how about this? Here, I'll give you a little attaboy on this one. Maybe.
Yeah, go ahead.
He says, "Do you understand what I've done for you? If his feet are dirty and he just washed their feet and he's got dirty feet, he's shaming them." Like they should all be lined up to wash his feet now. You know what I'm saying?
And that's why I think it's amazing.
That could be driving home that point too. Okay, I just did this. Now who's washing my? None of you even offered to wash my. I mean, that could be said again.
This would be the second time that's happened. That's recorded in the Bible. Is nobody washed my feet?
Yeah,
you didn't wash my feet. Yeah. You didn't wash my feet.
I'm just saying it would drive that point home deeper. The point still is made even if his feet were clean.
So a very provocative thought, but not anything that you really need to get hung up on. It's just something you just think about.
All right. So I got the next verse, which is pretty, I don't think it needs any commentary. You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Yep.
Yeah, done.
I got no commentary on that one. I think it speaks for itself.
Yeah. If then the Lord and the teacher washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. Ouch. Especially in light of what Luke 22 says about them sitting there fighting. It's like, he's like, my goodness, you guys, are you all just, at this point, are you dumb? Are you missing the point? Are you missing what love is all about? What sacrifice is all about?
Right, and now I think you have a dual meaning here, which turns into a triple meaning in a couple verses, too.
It's amazing how Jesus did that.
Yeah, and I think the dual meaning is, again, he's already told him, who is the greatest? The least among you. Who is first? The last. What he's saying is, I think the dual meaning is, you need to serve one another. You are not above anything, even washing feet. Okay, there's nothing below you. There's nothing that someone else has to do. If it needs to be done, do it for each other. And then I think that the dual layer meaning there is, he says, if I don't wash your feet, you have no part with me, is, sure, it's our responsibility to wash our feet. It's our responsibility to deal with our sin. But it's also our responsibility to help our brothers and sisters as we see them and help them wash their feet. And when we wash somebody's feet, as we help them walk in sin, it's not us coming. I love one of the commentaries I read about this was, sometimes we're too hot with our water.
That's a good way to put it.
In other words, we're kind of like really, and the water's too hot.
Water so
and the water's really too hot.
The point.
But that's not the you're not taking on the persona of the humbling of washing their feet then.
Right.
Or sometimes our water's too cold in the sense that, again, we do it not in love the other way, like, you need to deal with that, and not humbling ourselves and helping them walk through that and cleaning their feet. Now, so that's where I see a dual meaning is, you need to humble yourself. There's nothing below you. You want to be the greatest? Yeah, start washing feet. I mean, it's not you sit on a throne and everyone bows down to you and listens to you and obeys you. Okay, the term for pastor is shepherd, right? And that's often how their job is described as shepherding the flock.
Mm-hmm.
And now in every culture except the Hebrew culture, shepherds are looked down upon. It's a lowly task. Hebrews look up to shepherds because they guide. But it's work.
Look at David.
What's that?
Look at David.
Yeah, David, Abraham, God calls himself a shepherd. I mean, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were all shepherds. Yeah,
Jesus says, "I'm the good shepherd."
Yeah, exactly. So shepherds have a pretty good thing in Hebrew history, but a shepherd does a lot of work. A shepherd's not a king, and I know we're using David, who was a shepherd and a king, but I think David being a shepherd is what made him a good king.
Yes,
until he ignored that part, and then he became not a good king for a little bit.
It taught him love and understanding that we're so dumb as people, just like sheep, where you'll pull one out of a hole and set the sheep that you pulled out of the hole, and the sheep will just jump right back into the hole again.
Yep.
And you got to just keep doing it over and over and over and over again. And you're like, dude, stop.
Just YouTube that, sheep jumping back in a hole. It's super funny.
He leaps. It's great.
Here we are promoting another YouTube video on YouTube. But no, and but what I'm saying is the ones called to lead the church aren't called to sit on thrones. And no, I'm not knocking Catholicism here, okay? I can do that in a different way, but that's not my point here. My point is they're not called to rule over the people as a king. They're called to lead them as shepherds.
Yes.
And being a shepherd is a lot of work with not a lot of gratitude either, by the way. But and now we should be grateful to our shepherds, okay? There's a point there. We shouldn't necessarily be as dumb as sheep. But what he's saying is if you want to be great, you got to work hard. It's going to come with elbow grease. You got to get your hands dirty. There's no sitting back. Okay, I'm the greatest. All you got to do what I say. Yeah. No, I'm the greatest. I'm going to wash your feet next time.
Yeah, they were literally fighting over who was the greatest when Jesus specifically said the least is the greatest. Yes. It should be a battle between you and your contemporaries, your peers, your other Christian friends to see how much of a servant you can be to them.
Whose feet did Jesus wash last?
I don't think it was his.
No, I'm just thinking maybe that's who Jesus considered the greatest apostle. when the water's the dirtiest, who goes last? That's the first shall be last, the last shall be first. I don't know. Again, just speculation here.
Well, hold on.
But if you're gonna pull Judas,
dude, what if it was Peter? What if it was Peter?
It could be Peter. It doesn't say he washed his feet. It just says when he finished, and we don't know that. So
it would be incredible if it was Judas first and then Peter last.
Yeah.
And it
I don't
would
know
match.
if you're gonna go with your Judas first part. Now I'm just saying I wonder who. I don't know.
Yeah.
If it was John, he probably would have mentioned it was the disciple he loved.
That's true.
Because John left it out, maybe it is Peter. I don't know. But I'm speculating there totally. But anyway.
Yeah, John was throwing shade all the time.
All right.
But it should be a battle to the bottom, essentially. Yeah. It should never be a battle to the top. This isn't the corporate ladder.
No.
This is quite literally as lowly as you can possibly get. Will never be as low as Jesus brought himself.
And think about this too. Jesus, this is literally the day he dies. This is the first meal of that day. Probably the only meal he eats all day. And in the middle of it, he gets it up and does the lowly servant thing. And these guys, he's cleaning their feet so they can run away faster.
And John,
you know?
that's and John even starts. He finishes verse 1 by saying he loved them to the end. We're talking about the Creator. We're talking the Logos. We're talking the one that breathed out creation, created the universe.
Spoke. Yeah.
Yeah, and he is there in that moment with those 12 disciples. The day that he is to die as a man, and he's showing this type of servant love. Like the battle to the bottom with your peers, you're never going to reach the level that Jesus dropped to.
Right. If there was ever a day Jesus could say, look, I need a foot massage. I need you guys to take care of me. It's going to be a rough day. I need you to be there with me. And we wouldn't think anything of it. Well, yeah, of course. That's. But his example was, no, that was the day. And let's be honest, this was the first time he washed their feet. Because if this happened before, there's no argument for Peter. So the day he demonstrates the most humiliating thing that he's done for them is the day he could say, you know,
especially when you put it in the light of the fact that we're kings and priests.
Yeah.
And Jesus himself, the Logos, in man form, washed kings and priests' feet. That's just wild.
All right.
It's just wild. Anyway.
Let's get to this is where I think he adds a triple application.
Where did you read last on 15?
No, I haven't read 15 yet.
Okay, go ahead.
15 and 17, I think, give us that triple application. Yeah. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you.
We covered that, but yeah.
Oh, no. I got the triple application. I gave the third application.
Oh, yeah. Go.
And I'll really get into it in verse 17. I've set an example for you. Act like Jesus. Humble yourself. Don't look to exalt yourself amongst others. Help your brothers and sisters in need. Oh, no. I held my face up like this and I saw it down there. I'm like, oh, we froze. No, that was just me.
You're like,
yeah. Wash your brothers and sisters' feet. Help them as we walk through this thing. And then I've given you an example. Nothing I can really get into 17. I'll get the triple application of 17 because that's how we'll end, I think. So yeah, you good?
Maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but for 15, it shows us how we should also treat even those that are not followers of Jesus.
Uh-huh.
The ones that actively work against Jesus.
Uh-huh.
We're still supposed to to treat them
with love.
Yeah, because when you're communicating with people out in the world, you're not communicating with people that are finite. You're an eternal being, only subject in time to God's will. You're dealing with another eternal being. Eternal being, meaning, everlasting. That's a better word. Yeah. Everlasting being to another everlasting being. When you paint the picture that way, it's not just that guy down the street or that guy that spit on me the other day or that guy that cut me off in traffic. It's everlasting being to everlasting being. And when you paint it that way in your head, it's very difficult to be mean to other people. We think all the time about we were created in God's image.
Uh-huh.
We all had life breathed into us. Christians have the Holy Spirit indwelling in us. He is a part of us. We, as Christians, have a connection that the rest of the world does not have. I've said multiple times with a lot of my clients and stuff, like, I do not believe in coincidence between Christians. I believe the only people that can actually experience coincidence are people who are not Christians, people who do not believe in Jesus. But even then, those people are subject to God's plan.
Yeah.
So there's just so much to unpack in what he just said there.
Yep.
16, right?
Yep.
When Jesus wants to make a point, he says truly. When he really wants to make a point, he says truly, truly.
Or very truly.
Yeah, very truly.
Translation, but
because you got the verily. I grew up with a verily, verily.
Verily, verily. Yep,
verily,
that's the King James.
Which is really fun to say, but truly, truly, I say to you, a slave is not greater than his master, nor is one who is sent greater than the one who sent him. Jesus here is, I'll cover the last part first. Jesus here is saying, I'm not greater than God. I'm co-equal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm part of that.
Did you notice anything interesting in that, a descriptive word? It's in the Greek. It's the only time the word's used in the Gospels.
What is that?
Apostolos, whatever the word for apostle.
Okay.
The one who is sent. That's what apostle means. One who is sent.
Oh, that's in there in the Greek.
Yep, that's the word for apostle. Now, again, it had a meaning in Greek at that time. It's one who sent with the authority of.
How is that delineated between messenger, angel?
Well, that's a different word. Messenger.
No. Right, but the one who is sent, angels are sent. But is that the delineation between like a created human being?
The word has the idea is the one who is sent with the authority of, the one who is sending.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And it's interesting. He's talking to the apostles as he uses the only time it's the only time in I believe the only time in the Gospels it's used.
To look that up, but
yeah, I read it somewhere. So if it's wrong, I'm repeating it.
He saw it on the internet on Wikipedia. I'm kidding.
But anyway,
yeah.
All right. So now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. And this is where I think, well, with verse 15, this one is the triple application. For a while, I did go to a Grace Brethren church. They don't call themselves Grace Brethren anymore because Brethren was too difficult. And again, I think they've mostly dropped this practice and they just do it symbolically now. But when I went to that church, and I know my parents growing up went to this denomination for a while. They're very Baptist. They were the German Brethren Baptists when they came over from Germany. That we would practice what's called threefold communion. So, in like the church I went to, we would do that at Sunday nights. That was our Sunday. Now we had Sunday night services. Culturally now, that's like we talk about member meetings. This about being on Sunday nights. People are like, do it right after church. I'm like, well, some of us grew up in a culture going to church on Sunday night.
Yeah, so, it's not abnormal. I actually like it. Yeah,
so doing something on Sunday night because sometimes like when I go home, I don't want to come back out. I'm like. But some of us grew up, that was the way it was. You went home, you had a nap, you go back to church.
Yeah, or you go to your grandparents' house, you eat, and then by the time you're done eating, you're like sleepy, and then everybody wakes up and goes to
church.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's what you do.
So, and in this church, we did do Sunday night services. But when we did communion, it would be the entire service. We'd come into the auditorium, the main church, and we'd have tables set up. And we'd sit down in family groups or wherever, sit with your friends, however, whatever your parents would let you do. But the first thing we would do after praying and singing a hymn or something, because it's church, we got to do that. The men would leave. We would go to the fellowship hall. Women would stay there, and we would wash feet. And
just correct timing.
We would do it before the right. Then we would do threefold. So here's the other part: is we'd come back. We'd have a meal, share the meal together, share testimony time during then fellowship, agape meal we called it. Because I don't know if you know this, the word agape, it was actually a word for feasts in the Greek at that time. It didn't, even though it's love, so it love feasts. And then we would do the Eucharist, and then we would always leave singing hymns because if you get to the end, they left the upper room.
It's amazing
how
Jewish that is.
Well, because we were copying them. But anyway, but foot washing, there's something about washing somebody. It's humbling. Now listen, it wasn't back in this day. The feet were clean, and because everyone knew that
were they though? Okay, there you go.
We all you wash your feet that day. Maybe it depends. I remember, okay, we used to do this we used to have youth conference. At the end of youth conference.
Okay, thank you for telling this part of the story.
Yeah, and I had a friend one time, he wore sandals and went barefoot all week as much as he could to get his feet as dirty as he could, because he's like, I know you're going to wash my feet at the end of the week. So there were some applications where the feet were really dirty and nasty.
That's such a guy thing to do.
Yes, exactly, because we knew we were going to wash each other's feet, and it was, but there's just something humbling about, but here's the cool thing too, is you didn't always, when we go back and do communion, you didn't always go with your best friend. Sometimes you pick some old guy you hardly knew. Because the idea was washing each other's feet. This was a visible thing of the church.
Yeah.
And it's not, I just do it with my closest friends. Sometimes I'm going to do it to this guy. I hardly know his name. And it was only a church of like 150, 200. So you basically know almost everybody. Even, you might not know them well, but you at least know that's Mr. So-and-so. Might not know anything about them, but, it's, unless they're fairly new. But there was something about that, living it out, you realize this. And you always give each other a hug. You'd wash your feet, he'd wash your feet, stand up, give a hug. And then we go back, wash our hands, by the way, because we're going to eat. Very Jewish thing, too. And because the bathroom was on the way back to the men's room was on the left, on the way back to the main auditorium. But that picture of doing it, now you'll be blessed. There was a blessing, I have to say, doing it. Now, listen, I'm not advocating saying you have to do foot washing with communion. I know most denominations don't do that, and I know all that. But I'm just saying there was something about doing it, humbling yourself. You see that word picture of walking through life together, even though our feet weren't that dirty compared to, and I just think there was something about, and I honestly think Jesus, there'll be, I think he said, listen, if you do this, there's a blessing. And I think that means if you humble yourself and serve each other, if you help your brothers and sisters in their daily walk, getting rid of sin. But I honestly, I gave you an example, man. If you do it, you're gonna get that picture of what I'm doing. Now I know as a Southern Baptist church, we'll never get them to foot wash. I came close, but then COVID
never say never.
Came close one time, but then we had COVID coming.
Yeah, never, ever say never. I think there's the possibility of it happening. And
I said probably.
Yeah, it's interesting though that two of the most embarrassing or demoralizing or embarrassing things that can happen to you is touching someone else's feet, like that are dirty, like washing someone else's feet. That's a very embarrassing thing. It's very in our core we understand that's very lowly, right? Yes. You just kind of innately know that, almost as if it's part of our DNA. Second is something that Jesus mentioned as a very good lesson: if someone slaps you across the face. That's another very demoralizing and embarrassing thing to happen, especially if it happens in public. Someone slaps you across the face. Like I would prefer to be punched in the face than slapped across the face. And Jesus uses this example of washing feet. And the
slapping of the face was meant to be an insult.
Yes.
Jesus wasn't talking about violence that was meant to bring harm. No. In other words, there was a cultural application there too. Yes.
But he's using that because it's in us to understand that these two things are kind of not fun.
Right. And your natural inclination is slap them back.
Yeah. It is, yeah. Your natural inclination, your fallen inclination is you want to do it back. You have that heat of the moment, and how fast you can squash that down is a kind of an indicator of how sanctified you are, like how much time you're spending in the Word, because your ability to love when someone does bad things to you, it's filtered through how much time you spend in the Bible. So now we get to, what is it, verse 18?
I thought we stopped at 17.
We stopped at 17. Now we're in, well, I don't know, man.
Did you want to go on?
Yeah, I guess, no, not really.
Okay. I thought we stopped at foot washing. Because that was where mine broke. Does yours not break at 18?
Mine doesn't break there. Mine breaks at 20.
No, see, mine broke at 18. Yeah, and we read it out of this one.
Yeah. Yeah, because 18...
I mean, if you prepared something, we can go on. I didn't prepare. I stopped at 17.
I mean, kind... I'll continue and read verse 18, and then we can 18, 19, and 20. I'll read those.
Read all three.
And if you can think of something, then we'll hit it, and I might touch on it. So I do not speak to all of you. Now he's saying this: if you know these things, you are blessed if you do them. That's verse 17. Right. Continuing on, I do not speak of all of you. I know the ones I have chosen, but it is that the scripture may be fulfilled. He who eats my bread has lifted up his heel against me. From now on, I am telling you before it comes to pass, so that when it does occur, you may believe that I am he. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who receives whomever I send receives me, and he who receives me, he who receives me receives him who sent me. There's not a lot in my mind that we can unpack in 19 and 20, but 18, I think, is very important, because if you believe, like I believe, Judas was the first one to get his feet washed by Jesus, he's telling them that this was prophesied. Like what's about to happen was prophesied all the way back. It's Psalm 41:9, where David is saying, even my close friend in whom I trusted, who ate my bread, has lifted up his heel against me. And the thought behind this is the way that it's written out in that Jewish mindset is it's kind of like a horse lifting up its foot, just ready to strike, just ready to cause a bunch of damage. And I grew up around horses, so this kind of spoke to me. I've been kicked by a horse. I've watched a dog get kicked by a horse and actually take a horse hoof for me to save me, because that dog was awesome. And he lived. But it's amazing when you end at 18 and what Judas was about to do and how he was about to go about doing it. But Jesus still knelt down, and even if it wasn't Judas first, Judas was also included in that, which, again, just goes back to the end of verse 1. He loved him.
Yeah, because, it was going to be a shock when Judas did what he did in a few hours. So I think Jesus is kind of preparing them. And then, no, I told you this was going to happen. So look at all that's going to happen today. It's what I told you was going to happen. Another interesting thing in there, I'm not referring to all of you. So he says, in other words, I'm not referring to you 12. I know those I have chosen. Now, see, people take this out. See, this Jesus.
I knew you were going to hit this.
I know you knew.
I'm
but
letting
this
you
is
loose.
Clear in the context. He's talking about 11 individuals right here.
Yes.
And we also get that into his high priest prayer. He's referring to the disciples right there. But right here, he says, I'm not referring to all of you. He's not talking about the world. He's talking about the 12 men sitting in the room with him. Yes. So when he says, I know those I have chosen, and these are the men he called personally to be his disciples, he's put it into context.
He is saying specific, and don't pull Judas out of this. This isn't I do not speak of all of you. I know the ones I have chosen. He chose Judas too.
Yeah.
Judas is a part of this.
Right.
But yeah, it's important to take 18 in, I think. And then the rest of it.
But not referring to all of you, that's where Judas is left out in verse 17. You'll be blessed, because he knows Judas doesn't have long. Now that you know these things, you'll be blessed if you do them. He knows Judas is not going to do them.
And then he points out the fact that Psalm 41:9. Yes.
Yeah.
That's
what he says, I'm not referring to all of you. He's saying I'm referring to 11 guys. I know those I have chosen. I know you guys, but this doesn't refer to all 12 of you.
So he literally
this refers to 11 of you.
He says two different times in this reading that we've done, verses 1 through 18, he gives hints two different times that one of them is going to betray, and then he just outright says
he's about,
if
you keep going, he outright says it's the one who dips the bread and all of that. And so. No. Where did you get that Judas was sitting to the left? Because that wasn't in our text today.
It's not in the text today, no.
Yeah. Is it in one of the other Gospels?
Well, he is...
You're not going by Leonardo da Vinci's...
No, I'm not, because that's completely wrong in general.
Right,
they weren't sitting in chairs. The layout... You have Jesus. Table. Yeah, you have Jesus, and then you have...
Your host sits in the middle, and your proximity to the host is your importance, usually. Yeah.
Right. And in my, where I was reading commentaries, I do agree with Missler on this one. He was the first one that kind of opened my mind up to, okay, well, this is a probability that Judas most likely was on his left side, because there's extra biblical accounts of after this happened, and this was early church teachings, that... the left hand essentially became a terrible thing. So the left hand became a terrible thing. The right hand became the preferred, and that's John was on his right, Judas was on his left, and that's where that kind of train of thought is.
Well, there's I'll tell off air because I don't want the video taken down. There's also other reasons why the left hand is considered bad.
Yeah, and it's bathroom related. But this is a situation where, like in like the early church, this was kind of like a commonly thought thing, and I just don't disagree.
Okay,
with
so
it.
it's a tradition, but with maybe one with strong evidence.
Yeah, it's nothing. That,
okay.
Again, I wouldn't get.
I just wonder. I was like, it wasn't
that.
our text. Like, I wonder if it was another text or not. I don't ever remember reading that, but okay. So,
do you want to talk about the Passover Seder? Do you want to talk about timeline for that? Because there's schools of thought here that there were 4 cups involved in this, and this is a gorgeous picture. It's a beautiful picture that makes perfect sense.
Well, hey Randy, is it okay if we go on? Randy's on.
Oh, Randy's on. All right.
He commented. He says, "Hi guys, Randall here." He's using this He's using his wife's thing or whatever.
Nice. Okay. Well, hi Randy. Unfortunately, I can't see what you're saying, but yeah.
It just says, "Hi guys, Randall's here."
All right. Perfect. So okay, this is a beautiful picture,
so
and I'm going to lay it out.
Okay.
If the Passover Seder was at that point in time enacted, the way that the Passover feast was handled, there would have been 4 cups.
Let me explain what you mean by that. You can explain the same.
Go.
Okay, so today, when a Passover Seder is done, they have a whole tradition of how they do this. They're usually going to 4 cups. They hide stuff. They do stuff.
The hidden bread.
Yes. Now, what we don't know is when was this instituted, because it's difficult. Really, pre-AD 70. Before the destruction of the temple. That's when you hear AD 70, that means when the temple was destroyed. After AD 70, Judaism changes completely because there's no more sacrifices.
In response to the fact that the sacrifices went away.
And it's pretty clear there's not going to be sacrifices for a long time. The Romans are not going to let it happen.
Yeah.
So Judaism has to change. And we get into more of the Judaism we see today, rabbinical Judaism. Before AD 7, it was Second Temple Judaism. Based upon the temple. Judaism before AD 70 revolves around the temple. After AD 70, we have to have Judaism. We have no temple anymore. And then by 125, most of the Jews will be pulled out of Israel. So they have no homeland anymore. So in these times, Judaism goes through a transformation into what we see more of today, of what we call rabbinical, that's more based upon the teachings of the rabbis and pointing to illusions of stuff rather than the hard stuff happening at the temple. At Yom Kippur, there's no more sacrifice made. There's no going in and sprinkling the blood on the mercy seat. There's no priests. There's nothing. So what we don't know is, when did all these traditions start? Were they being practiced in Second Temple Judaism? Because even the books we have that tell us what life was like in first century Israel, like the Midrash, they don't come to the 2nd and 3rd centuries. The Talmuds, the Babylonian Jerusalem Talmuds, they don't come till even a century or 2 after that.
And as far as I know, even the historian Josephus, he doesn't mention the.
So we don't, right? So we know they practice a Seder,
with the 4 cups.
We know they practice something.
Yeah.
Coming out of it since the days of Exodus.
Yes.
What it looked like, because if you look at Exodus and you look what they practice today, they're not the same thing. It's been elaborated.
You'd have pita all over them.
Yeah. In other words, you have that too.
Uh-huh. I've thought about that a lot.
But you have an elaboration though in things added to it. So what he's going to describe here, we don't know when this was added. Was this after the temple? Was this something added before that and they did that, or was there a combination? Was some of these things before and they incorporated more and more? So
or was this potentially something that Jesus enacted during that night that was then passed along and then eventually came about after 70 AD?
Well, because
it's possible.
Many things about rabbinical Judaism are generally answers to Christianity.
Yes.
In other words, well, we can't have that because that sounds too much like Jesus.
And it's funny because we do the exact same thing. We don't want to sound too Jewish.
No, but the funny thing here, I think, is this is the one that doesn't fit that. Because this one points to Jesus. So go ahead.
It really does. Okay, and this is where the story is beautiful, okay? So if you picture this Passover feast, and you've got the 4 cups that are in front of this group of guys. You have the unleavened bread.
Now explain, when you say they're 4 cups, it's not because there's only 4 guys. They all drink out of the same cup.
There's 4 cups. One is the cup of promise.
But the point is, they're all going to drink out of the cups.
Yeah, they all drink out of the cups, right?
It's not like this cup's for these three guys and these three guys and these.
It's four cups for however many people are in. Like
everybody's going to drink out of the same cup.
Yes,
each time.
But each of the four cups has a meaning, and memory is not too great on this. I know the first one is the cup of promise, and there's a second and a third one. The fourth one is a cup specifically for the gathering, essentially the gathering two. So Josh, he's looking up the names of the other two because this is very important.
I didn't prepare for this at all. So
no, that's fine. Why. So what's cool is if Jesus did this with the four cups, if he took the first three cups and then stopped, and then the fourth cup, it's said in history that he didn't partake of the fourth cup. He set the fourth cup aside or didn't take it up. He said, I will not drink the fruit of the vine until later on, a very specific time, the kingdom. And the kingdom has come. At the time the kingdom has come, essentially. And so he sets that aside. He still breaks the bread, and you have the bread. There's two different pieces broken out, and then you have the hidden piece of bread. That's the one that's eaten at the very last, if my understanding is correct, which is, again, a beautiful picture of Jesus also, because the hidden bread of life, essentially. So the thought here is you have the four cups, three are taken this night, and Jesus does not take the cup, the fourth cup of gathering two, until he's on the cross, and he takes the sour wine. Not the one like you talked about earlier, which was the one that had the painkiller in it.
Yeah, with myrrh.
Because he couldn't do that. Otherwise, prophecy wouldn't be fulfilled properly. But he took that sour wine, and when he did, he said, Tetelestai, it is finished. It's done. So when Jesus took that final sip, that finished that Passover. That finished the Passover feast.
Let me give you the four names of the cups.
Yes,
it's okay because they all have different names.
Yeah, okay.
In other words,
it's all over the place.
No. Cup one would be this. Sometimes they use different names for the same cup.
Yeah, it's a little
cup
weird.
One is the cup of sanctification.
Okay, I'm wrong.
So that one's right. I mean, that one is there's only one name for it.
Okay.
But then after the cup of sanctification comes either the cup of deliverance, plagues, or judgment.
Okay.
So it's God delivering them from the plagues in Egypt. The third cup is the cup of redemption or the cup of blessing. Either way, God redeeming his people. The fourth cup, the one that you're referring to, is the cup of either praise, hope, kingdom, salvation, or restoration.
Okay.
So that fits in with Jesus on the cross.
So
that's
again,
what it's doing.
Regardless of if this happened at that point in time and this picture is being painted or not, it still exists. It's still exactly what was practiced with the Jews after the temple fell. Right. So literally, they're playing out the salvation of Jesus in drinks and bread.
Every year.
And it just shows the foreknowledge of God.
Mm-hmm.
And like Josh said, we don't know. We're not sure. But it's a cool little thought to have. Was there anything else?
I think we nailed it and hit it over the head and nailed it again. That's going to be a long one.
It's a really great way of saying that. We're talking about crucifixion, my friend.
Oh, no, we're talking about the meal before the crucifixion, but yeah.
No, I was talking about the crucifixion.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
The sour wine. Yeah. Anyway, did you flip or did I flip?
I think you flipped and I read.
And what do we mean by flipping?
Well, this is where we get to the random acts of study. So if it's your first time here, we'll explain it. If it's not your first time, well, you're going to hear it again.
Yeah, welcome and welcome back.
Yes, we're going to explain it every single time. So you just tune out for 10 seconds. The idea was, I remember you first came to me like, let's just flip open the Bible and do a Bible study. Like, that's not how we do a Bible study. You got to do some studying.
It took a while for him to buy into it.
Yes. And I'm like, well, that's how you get bad doctrine. Because sometimes you read something and you don't dive into it. So I finally convinced you. But really the idea is still, we're going to flip open the Bible somewhere. And the reason is this. We're looking for different. It's not we're looking for something different. The point is we're really testing out Paul's thing to Timothy that all Scripture is
Old
useful.
Testament.
Well, some of the New Testament might have been written by them, but most of it
probably.
But our whole point is no matter what it is, there's a Bible study there.
Yeah.
And we played to the real extreme of we're going to randomly open the Bible somewhere. One of us flips open randomly, and one of us looks at the page and starts picking. And there was that video going around, like, then he hung himself, and then Billy said it goes, and likewise do the same. Well, we'll flip open, and if it's and he hung himself, which just the equivalent of that
We'll
is
still go.
flipping open to a list of names that goes on and on and on for 55 verses, right, Aaron?
Or starting this podcast in October 22? 22? Was it 22? Maybe. No, 23. I don't know. It's been a couple years, right? We opened up against a prophecy. We opened up with a prophecy against Israel right as...
the Tuesday before October 7th, yeah.
Yeah. And so we had to pre-show or preface the entire podcast with, listen, guys, this is not about now. This is about then. So we're gonna tiptoe a little bit, but we're gonna hit the word the way that the word is speaking to us at that point in time.
Right.
But again, the interconnectivity of the Bible, even Old Testament to New Testament, and you talked about this pre-show as well. It's the same God.
Yeah.
It's the same Logos. It's the same Jesus. It's the same Holy Spirit.
Same message.
It's the same message, and it's all interconnected. So if you go back and look at episode 1 all the way through whatever episode we're at right now, because we do try to do one every 2 weeks, it's all interconnected. And so far, the story has remained that Jesus is love, and through him we gain access to the Father.
Right.
So that's Random Acts of Study.
Yes. That's the random.
And we call it Holy Spirit. We call it Holy Spirit inspired learning because when you open up the Bible, if you just simply read it with your eyes and with your human mind, you will get bad doctrine. You will get problems. But if you open up the Bible randomly and begin to read and you have the Holy Spirit speaking to you, it's very hard to get bad doctrine because you're willing to do that contextual research.
Right.
What does this say and why is this saying
So,
it?
right,
What's happening?
See, that's what I'm about to flip open. So Aaron's going to read.
Yep.
And we reserve the right to add or take away to make the Bible study. Because sometimes you need a little more background.
Yeah, which we kind of
sometimes you bite off more reach. You know what? We only needed like half those verses.
Yeah.
So
yeah, one of these days we'll get the part where Jesus wept, and then we'll spend 3 or 4 episodes on it.
Oh yeah, this is good. This is a good thing. You ready?
Come on. All right. Yep. Go.
All right. Let's see.
Where are we at?
Look, we talking about
John
1 John.
13. I'm just
First
kidding.
John. No,
All
1 John. But not chapter 1. 4 or 5. You have to pick
I don't know.
something.
I go to the. I go.
Well, if you want to start that section, you can flip back and go to that section.
My goodness. All right. So okay, I just spoke about the interconnectivity of the Bible. If I start with 1 John chapter 5, and I will.
All right.
Everyone who believes that Jesus is the Christ is born of God, and everyone who loves the Father loves his child as well. What did we just end with? Literally the same statement from the same guy.
Same author, yeah.
Yeah. There are some people that don't believe that this is the same author because he calls himself the elder in, what is it, in the First John? He starts it with the elder.
He's a lot older now, yes.
Yeah, and people are like, well, it doesn't really say that it's John.
When you're the last apostle alive, you the term elder comes along.
Yeah, anyway, sorry. Everyone who believes that Jesus is the Christ is born of God, and everyone who loves the Father loves his child as well. This is how we know that we love the children of God, by loving God and carrying out his commands. In fact, I can't. In fact, this is love for God, to keep his commands, and his commands are not burdensome. For everyone born of God overcomes the world. This is the victory that has overcome the world, even our faith. Who is it that overcomes the world? Only the one who believes that Jesus is the Son of God. Should I keep going?
I'd read the whole passage.
Go for it. Just
to
the scribe break.
Yeah.
All right. So continue on verse 6. This is the one who came by water and blood. Jesus Christ. He did not.
Can be translated a different way, though. We'll talk about that next week.
Yeah, we will.
Or next time.
He did not come by water only, but by water and blood. And it is the Spirit who testifies, because the Spirit is the truth. For there are three that testify, the Spirit, the water, and the blood, and the three are in agreement. We accept human testimony, but God's testimony is greater, because it is the testimony of God, which he has given about his Son. Whoever believes in the Son of God accepts this testimony. Whoever does not believe in God has made him out to be a liar, because they have not believed the testimony God has given about his Son. And this is the testimony: God has given us eternal life, and this life is in his Son. Whoever has the Son has life. Whoever does not have the Son does not have life. Talking about interconnectivity. That's wild. So, I always question, are we making the right decision creating a podcast or a YouTube study on the Bible? Is it going to be throttled out there by the spiritual battle that's happening that prevents Christian-based content from making it to the front page? Like, what if we gain no followers on our YouTube, or we gain no followers on the podcast? And ultimately, at the end of the day, Josh, you and I have talked multiple times of, if we have one listener, just one, that believes in Jesus after listening to an episode or watching a video of us, then we've kind of fought the good fight.
Yeah.
And it's not us that would be credited for it. It would be Jesus, obviously. It would be God. It would be the Holy Spirit acting in that person's life. We're just kind of a conduit. We're, like we talked about pre-show, we're a reflection of the glory of God. And if we show people how amazing this text is, how interconnected and how knowledgeable and how amazing it is, we're doing okay.
We're doing what we're called to do.
Yeah. So that was 1 John chapter 5, verses 1 through, forgot exactly what it was. I know it was 6,
12.
10, 12.
Yeah.
So in 2 weeks.
Yes.
In 2 weeks, guaranteed, unless something else happens. We'll have a study on that. We'll come in with our thoughts on that and kind of go verse by verse how we did today. If you like this format, feel free to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can see when we go live. Yeah, smash them.
I say that because my wife hates that word.
And on Facebook also, there is a group, a page called Random Acts of Study, that if you join that, there's some discussion in there. I'm terrible about adding discussion because of how busy I am during the day, but would love to have the interaction in the community. But if it's just watching YouTube videos, hit the buttons, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
And wherever podcasts are.
Yeah, that's true.
Or, my daughter listens to Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, why
favorite thing to fall asleep to.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
Daddy, which one's longer? She's 10, but she listens to the podcast going to bed every night.
Just sweet.
So,
now she'll have a few more episodes. But, reach out to us. Leave a comment. What your thoughts are. If you agree with us, if you do disagree with us, if you have your own personal thought, fantastic. We want to hear it. Anything that you want to add? Are you good?
I'm good.
All
See you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks. This is where I awkwardly lean forward and end the stream. So hang tight, everybody.